Yay, good morning everybody. It's a Monday and it didn't rain. I drove to work and no rain. It was so exciting. And everybody was even driving better and being nicer, except, you know I'm gonna have an except. I got in the slow lane, then I moved over to the fast lane. And in the fast lane, now think about this, there's one big old truck with pulling a bobcat. And over here in the slow lane, there's two trucks pulling equipment. And so you have a choice. Well, there's no choice because he's right in front of me and these two are beside me. Do you know, if you've ever ridden with me, you know that stuff around me intimidates me. So all the way up here, I was going, and finally, after Whitestone, I got an opportunity to pass them. I will not tell you how fast I had to go to pass them, but I am just so thankful that I had that one moment that I could get around them because it gets on my nerves. I'm a weird rider, I'm a weird driver, and you won't believe where I spent my day yesterday, 9.5 hours in a vehicle. 9.5 hours, but don't I look fresh and rested because I wasn't doing the driving. Oh, it was a daycation, and I want y'all to write this down. Now, this is not a daycation for children. This is a daycation for adults. Adults who just want to go back and look at stuff that remembers them of their childhood. That's what the trip was about. So we end up, my granddaddy had couple of, I started to say real estate offices. No, he was a dentist. He had dental offices up in North Georgia, right by Cloudland Canyon. And so we went through Trenton, Georgia. I got to see the area where he worked. This day, we didn't do Somerville, Georgia. Normally we do Somerville, Georgia too. But I can tell you, you can start in Ball Ground, Georgia, and you can be on the road 9.5 hours. And complete the cycle. It was about just under 350 miles. And that meant that the time, there was a lot of time getting out, walking cemeteries and looking at graves and doing stuff like that. And you'll get to see those videos in a few minutes. But it was just relaxing. There wasn't any crazy body out on the road. People were so nice. Do you know in Alabama when you meet people in a car, they go, hey y'all. We do that here. You get down south about Ball Ground, those people don't know. I pull out of the driveway and I throw up my hand and they look at me like, what is wrong with you? Well, what is wrong with you? If you come to the country, learn to like folks, learn to get out and do stuff. We're going to share you some photos. There's one I forgot to send. I think it maybe, no, I did send it. It is a beautiful church. Now it comes up that the address is Chickamauga. But it is at the corner of whatever the main road was we were on. I think it was 136 and Kensington Road. I was looking for a certain place, but I hadn't been there in 48 years. Another place I was looking for, I hadn't been in 60 years. So figure out, did I find them all? No, didn't. But I enjoyed trying and I enjoyed reliving those moments and I enjoyed some of the other things. Did visit a neighborhood where a young lady who sings on stage a lot lives, and did visit another neighborhood where somebody that you know and love that I've had on here before lives up in Lafayette, Georgia. Just rode around, just kind of had a little itinerary and went to church cemeteries where folks that you know were buried, and then went to, just rode around. And it was really cool because we ended up in Fort Payne, Alabama. Now, Fort Payne, Alabama, I don't know about y'all, but if you watched any of the country music awards, this is not country music. That stuff that they're putting on now has nothing to do with country music. A lot of it's good music and a lot of it is fun music, but it's not country music. And we went by, and I have pictures and a little video, and I'm going to show you. Fort Payne knows how to celebrate America. There were American flags everywhere. I don't see all around us a lot of our cities covered in American flags. So I'm warning y'all, mayors, governors, city council people, y'all, get your flags out, put your flags out. We're about to celebrate the 4th of July. We just celebrated Memorial Day. Alabama knows how to do it. Alabama also, my goodness gracious, you can tell the cost of living over there is a whole lot different than it is around these parts. There were new homes for under $300,000 and I was going, what? Oh my gosh, where would you work? Well, I got this idea for you. There's a house that I'm gonna call about today. It has a bunch of land and it has a single wide mobile home with it, and it looks like once upon a time it was an operational farm. Somebody just walked off and left it, and it's for sale now. I don't know if they died, I don't know if they retired, I don't know what happened, but I'm gonna call about it because somebody out there homeschools and somebody out there works from home with a company in California. So you get paid California wages, but you can live anywhere you want to because you do it all over the internet. That's the kind of place you want to go. I have a friend who actually bought a farm over in Alabama, and they were telling us about it and said the cost of living there is so much different than it is here because the cost of the land and the taxes is cheaper. And I thought, well, I never thought about that. But the last place that I got to see in Alabama was the lake property that we owned for 17 years. Lots of fun memories there. Lots and lots of fun memories. So we're gonna share some of the photos now with y'all, and I want you to think about this is a beautiful, beautiful cemetery. This is New Canaan Baptist Church in Rainsville, Alabama. And I think this is New Canaan. Yeah, no, maybe. We went to two churches. Anyway, this one was decorated so beautifully. Everything about it was just so pretty. This wasn't New Canaan, this was the other one. But this was so beautiful. And I walked through the cemetery and I found a lot of things, and I thought I'd found the oldest one that I could find was like 1905, but then I found some in the late 1800s. But this cemetery just looked beautiful. You could tell that the church has a great crew who takes care of the grounds, and everybody did the most beautiful flowers, and there were so many unusual monuments. And one of the monuments that really stuck out to me was one that was a mausoleum above the ground, and it was for a young lady. And then this one, is that not gorgeous, y'all? Have you ever seen anything like that? I've never seen anything like that, but it's just absolutely beautiful. And all around the cemetery, the other cemetery that we're going to visit in a few minutes, I kept seeing my maiden name, and I'm like, this is so weird, because Granddaddy and Grandmama, now this is the one that's above ground, and beautiful, just a beautiful tribute to family members who are gone on. And it was a really, I hate to say this, but it was relaxing and it was calming to walk through and to read the memorials written about these people, and to kind of look just at, oh my gosh, she was only 19, she was only 24, she was only 36. So many people. You know when we're going to leave here? When the good Lord decides we are. And I think that's something that families have to all accept, and it's so hard, But seeing this cemetery, I just wandered aimlessly, and I'm like, okay. And then I would look at the dates, and I would look at the tombs, and I would think about it. And then I kept seeing my maiden name kept popping up, and I'm like, this is weird, because Granddaddy's family lived in Floyd County, Georgia. I don't know if they had any Alabama roots, but I thought, this is very strange. So, and that one had a beautiful verse on it, and I was reading it. She was a daughter who died, and when I read it, I thought that would be so appropriate for any of our daughters who left this world too early. And then those were some of the older ones. That was like 1835, 1885, and that's one of the older ones. But there they are, you know, and you know that they probably have no family members left, but they're still remembered. As people visit the cemetery, I'm sure like me, they will say, oh wow, look at that one, look at that one. So and this is, again, I said it's not a trip you want to plan with kids in the car for 9.5 hours, but it was a wonderful, wonderful, relaxing day, going back in the past and trying to find some of the things I remember as a child. Didn't do too good with some of them. The area had changed so drastically, but Trenton had not. And so that was interesting. And Cloudland Canyon has not changed much. And it's so strange. And these are beautiful, just beautiful, along the side of the road in Alabama. Everybody was out there cutting their grass, and I said, I'll tell you where they sell more zero-turn lawnmowers than anywhere in the world, Alabama, because everybody was on one except one little gentleman who had a big old yard, and he was just on a little riding lawnmower, and I thought, bless your heart, you're going to be here all day. Lots of farming. So today, thank a farmer. If you've got some good old collard greens on your table today, thank a farmer, because without the farmer, America would stop. And there were just acres and acres and acres of things planted in just beautiful, beautiful, perfect rows. And, you know, it's interesting because, and there, all those lilies, there were lilies coming up everywhere alongside the road, and I said, I wish I had a shovel, but I didn't, so. But it was just a beautiful, beautiful day, and again, no interstate involved, no traffic involved, no crazies involved. Now, this is a house that's for sale, and I'm going to call about it and get the information, because there it is, and it has a big workshop, just a beautiful setting, and there's a story behind it, I'm sure. Either the people passed away or retired and moved to Florida, or well, I don't know what happened, but this is Alabama, where farming is a big deal. So if you like to farm, if you like land, if you like a cost of living that is much less than it is here, it's also, it doesn't afford all the things that we have here, so you have to give up something to get something. But this is in Fort Payne, Alabama, and this, I didn't realize, and I guess I just didn't think about it. When the Cherokee left our area in Ball Ground, Georgia, yeah, they walked through Alabama, and this is part of the Trail of Tears, and I thought that was so interesting because I've never paid any attention to that. They walked through Tennessee, through Georgia, through Virginia, through Kentucky, and they were walked out into Oklahoma. Now, this is where country music started, in my opinion. I know we had Loretta Lynn, and we had Kitty Wells, and we had all that. But when Alabama came on the scene, the teenagers converted from rock and roll to country music because they loved the group Alabama. So I think that that's when country music really, really grew. And there is an Alabama museum over there. You can go and learn a lot about the music. You can also stand in front of the statues there and have your picture made. But it's just, you know, it's just a few hours from here. And it was such a simple drive, and there wasn't any traffic, and it was so pleasant. And I said, that's the big deal. Now, this is what I want Ball Ground to do this. Ball Ground, listen to me. Let's raise some money and build one of these. They had an amazing stage there. This is near the Alabama Museum. They had an amazing stage, and then they have this cover, which means rain, sleet, or snow, you can have events, and folks don't have to sit out there and get soaking wet, and you don't have to put up tents. So is that not cool? Now, this is where I love that Fort Payne had flags everywhere, and then they had these signs remembering those who lost their lives, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. So we're about to face the 4th of July. We've just come out of Memorial Day, and it is time for us to remember the military. And this gentleman lived in Ball Ground, Georgia, and is buried over in Rainsville, Alabama. So there you go. Is that not a cool building? I've never figured out what it is, but it's right in downtown Fort Payne. And then this is New Canaan Baptist Church. And this is the church that is on the corner of Kensington and I think 136. That is the coolest old church. And then this is where lots of farming going on. But is that not a cool old church? I love it. And that's on the road where I hoped I would find the home I was looking for, but I didn't find it. Wasn't nothing I could do about it. Just kept riding up and down looking, and no, things change in 40 years. Now there's Ellijay, a lady who made a lot of cakes for Ball Ground, Georgia. And then there's all kinds of graves with my maiden name on it. And I read them and I looked and I thought, don't know any of these folks, ain't never heard tell of any of these folks, and Granddaddy and Grandmama aren't here to ask about it. So you just don't know. A lot of folks get into genealogy. I don't have time for that. But I kind of am interested in it, just don't have the time. But yeah, a lot of folks with that maiden name I've got, and I thought, interesting. But it was a fun trip, and it's one I suggest you make. Get up in the morning and head on out and head toward Alabama. You might catch the corner of Tennessee, and if you start the route differently than we did, I would suggest going to Muscle Shoals, to the Alabama Museum, the great Museum of Music. It is awesome. It is really awesome, and it's not just gospel music, not just country music, it's all kinds of music, and it's really cool. There's another one of those Dobbs people laying out there in the cemetery, so a fun trip. Now we've got a couple of short videos we're going to show you, and I'm not going to talk during the videos, but you can kind of see for yourself. It's short, so here we go. Hey y'all, still over in Alabama, and I want to tell you, this is the time of year that small rural churches do Decoration Day. I don't know that I've ever seen a more beautiful cemetery. Everything is so well manicured, absolutely stunningly beautiful, and some of the prettiest monuments I've ever seen. The oldest grave I found in this cemetery is 1905, and the most recent, just a few months ago, a year ago. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So remember, if you're out on back roads, if you're traveling through Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, remember, we still honor those that have gone on before us, and Decoration Day is a perfect day to stop, visit a church, reflect, find a soldier's grave, and tell him thank you. Guys, we're coming into downtown Fort Payne, and I want to remind you, the holidays, 4th of July is about to be upon us, and look at all these flags displayed in honor and in memory of our great United States. They were put out before Memorial Day, and they'll be left through the 4th of July, and everybody, let Fort Payne be an example to you. Get your flag out, fly your flag, be proud to be an American, be proud of the country that many fought and died for, and get out and tell all of them, hey, we support you, we love you. And here's something I wanted to share with y'all, the DeKalb Theater. This is really, really cool old building. If you get a chance, check out their website and find out what's going to be going on there. They do concerts, they do plays. Really, really cool. And don't forget, there are some statues of the Alabama gang here in Fort Payne. So come by, get your picture made with that. And remember, this is where country music might have been born. Now today is a very, very special day here at ETC because last week a gentleman that we know and loved was honored. He was a mountain man, and so I think it's appropriate that before we share the amazing, he made such a contribution to the North Georgia mountains, but he also made a contribution to the sea down near Savannah. He made a contribution to the farmlands of Albany. He made a contribution everywhere he stepped his feet in Georgia. Speaker of the House, David Ralston. He was my friend. I love him and I miss him, and I don't know how in the world Cherie makes it, thinking about the amazing things that they were involved in and all the things they were able to do for the state of Georgia. One of the things that he was really able to do, and he and I laughed about this a lot, we always talked about traffic, and once we got 515 and once we got 575, then things changed, because used to you came up Old Highway 5. That was the only way you could get to the mountains. Well, folks from Atlanta just thought that was the most miserable, awful drive. So somebody came up with a plan to grow the mountains by putting 515 and 575 in. And one day David Ralston was visiting with me, and I looked over at him and I said, listen, Bubba, you got to help me. I said, we've got these big billboards down at 108. I said, can you get the state of Georgia to pay for one that says, welcome to these mountains, now slow your down? And he said, sure, we can't do that. And I said, well, I think we ought to. When you come to these beautiful mountains to visit, slow down and enjoy the scenery and get off on the back roads and quit driving like maniacs on the big road. We made the big road to make it easier for y'all to get here, but calm down and enjoy the ride. And that's something they're not doing. People drive, you can look at their license and know, well, they're headed to Blue Ridge to a cabin and they're trying to check in early. You can tell by the way they drive. And David and I laughed about this a lot, because I would say, you got to get me that billboard up. He said, we can't do that. And I said, yes, you can. You can do anything. He could do anything. He did so much for the North Georgia mountains. And so before we go to the tribute to him, we're going to pay tribute to another man who's done a lot for these mountains. He's written about them, he's recorded about them, he has shared them. He shared them in gospel music, he shared them in country music, he shared them in rock and roll. But he's always sharing with somebody else. And he does a funeral about every week or two, or some 2 a week, because as we get older, our friends are leaving here. So we all need to get out and go visit the cemetery and see how our friends are doing. We know they're doing well because 99.9% of them are with the Lord, and we know that. So we're going to go to some music by Mr. Ellijay, The Mountain Life. David Ralston lived the mountain life. He was about the mountain life. He loved inviting people from the capital to come to these mountains. And many of them did, and many of them fell in love with them. So as we prepare to pay tribute to a wonderful man, here's a tribute to Mr. Ellijay.
Misty mountain, rainbow sky, a faraway look in your eye. Tell me, have you had enough? Traffic jams and city stuff. Don't you think it's time to go where black bears climb and waters flow? Hummingbirds out on the deck, propped up, and what the heck? You'll love how we live here in these mountains. Everything is gonna be alright, and we all wave hello here in these mountains. Good, we sleep well at night. It's all right, the mountain life. Trip to Ellijay and see the bright red Georgia clay, from Notley down to Carter's Lake. All the memories to make, so much here for all to see, a land that is so dear to me. Welcome home to all your dreams, hot rod Fords and crystal streams. Now you'll love how we live here in these mountains. Everything is gonna be alright. We all wave hello here in these mountains. Life is good, we sleep well at night, and it's all right, the mountain life. It's all right, the mountain life. Y'all come by and see us anytime you can.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time. And delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We can't play about our future or our finances. Make moves, set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up, stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Free game to greater things. This is pre-retirement.
See us anytime you can.
Whether you're swimming in the sea or splashing in the pool, making a masterpiece, or just making memories, writing a great American novel, or writing your term paper that's due tomorrow. Whatever you do in life, Farmers is here to protect it. For all your insurance needs, call Donald Curtis in Blue Ridge.
He represents Dawson, Lumpkin, and portions of White County. And Steve Tarbin, you're from the extreme northwest end of the state. What's county?
Second place in Georgia.
Second. You're in the first.
Walker, Catoosa, and Whitfield.
There you go. These three gentlemen have worked with David and served with him in the House. I've been blessed to know him over the years as a state senator. I've served for 15 years, and the entire time I was there, I worked with Speaker Ralston. We know him as Speaker Ralston in Atlanta, but we know him as David up here in North Georgia. This is where home was, and I used to always like the kid and cut up with him, and everybody brags on him, and you know, when you're in power, like the Speaker, the Lieutenant Governor, everybody kisses the ring. So I would always try to brown nose him a little bit too, you know, we have to get our stuff done over in the House. I was kidding with him one day about being such a powerful man and so strong and influential. I said, is it true that you learned how to govern the House because you were a good senator first? And we sort of chuckled. Spiro can understand that. He was a state senator, for those that may not know. He started out as a state senator, ran for the state office for the Attorney General's position, and came back and made his family business here in North Georgia as a lawyer, done a great job raising his family here, and loved this community, loved Gilmer, Fannin, and Dawson counties, and did a lot for this community. There's several people here in the room that are county commissioners and others that have been elected and served in public office, so you know what it means to give back to your community. And David really set the gold standard on that in this area of the state when he gave back to his community. He worked hard in Atlanta as a speaker, trying to manage these guys, but he wanted to take care of his people back home first, and that was his first priority, just like it should be for all of us. But I've known him for a long time now, and I was at the service when he passed, and it was just a long, tragic day. I know the family still misses him, and you still suffer, you still have him in your heart. a lot of great memories. I've known Matthew for many years, working at the Capitol as well, but I'm just honored to be here today to be part of this resolution that passed the House and the Senate, originated in the House. It was dropped, introduced by Representative Rick Jasper, who represents Jasper and Pickens County. He's not able to be here this morning. He had a last-minute medical issue, some high blood pressure, so we're working to make sure he gets the medical attention that he needs, but he's apologizing in advance, and he couldn't be here today. He wanted to be a part of this, but David meant a lot to him as well. So thank y'all for coming. At this time, I'd like for Johnny Chastain to read the resolution. It's kind of lengthy, but it talks a lot about David's background, his education, where he grew up, and what he's done as state House member, state senator, and also Speaker of the House. Johnny, if you would.
Okay, thank you, Majority Leader. Before I read this, I do want to say it's a huge honor for me to be here today. Of course, with all my constituents, with the family, Sheree, all the Ralston family. Gosh, I saw Steve a long time. I was working with Steve many years ago in the community bank. Good to see him and Dennis and all the family. I do want to say just this, when many years ago, my dad decided to try to run for politics and won a race up in Fannin County. He was clerk of Superior Court, and didn't know a thing about being a clerk of Superior Court. And sort of like I was when I started this job, but he didn't know a thing about being a Superior Court clerk. And one of the first calls he got was from a man named Willard Ralston. And Willard and my dad, as we were talking about earlier, became inseparable, close friends. And heard some great stories that they run together at clerk schools. And I just want to say that how much I appreciate that, because that was a big help by our family. And way back then, many years ago. And so I'm going to do my job. I'm going to read the resolution. It's good to see everybody here today, and colleagues here from the House as well. This is a resolution honoring the life of Honorable David E. Ralston and dedicating an interstate connector, bridge, and highway in his memory and for other purposes. Whereas the Honorable David E. Ralston was born on March the 14th, 1954 in Ellijay, Georgia, a distinguished native son of North Georgia. Whereas he attended Young Harris College and later earned a bachelor's degree from North Georgia College and State University, and earned his law degree from the University of Georgia School of Law. Whereas Speaker Ralston dedicated his life to the service of the citizens of Gilmer and Fannin counties, working to make their lives better in a way that he could. Whereas he ran a successful law practice, providing sound legal advice and counsel in Blue Ridge, Fannin County, Georgia for more than 4 decades. Whereas in 1992, he began a long and distinguished career in public service when he was elected to the Georgia Senate, where he served 3 consecutive terms. Whereas in 2002, he was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives, where he was elected Speaker in 2010, a position he held until his untimely death. Whereas as Speaker, he shepherded many pieces of legislation beneficial to the citizens of the great state of Georgia through the legislature, including tax relief, criminal justice reform, transportation infrastructure funding, modernization, and adoption reform. Whereas he has a particular passion for improving the health care provided to Georgians, citizens struggling with mental health issues. And whereas on November the 16th, 2022, he did peacefully at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta, surrounded by his beloved wife Sheree's children, Matt and Elizabeth, and other family members. Whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that this remarkable and distinguished Georgian be recognized appropriately by dedicating an interstate connector, bridge, and highway. So there's 3 things here, like I said, we're dedicating this morning in his memory. Whereas his legacy will live on as all who travel such as the interstate connector, the bridge, and the highway will see his name forever being recognized. Now therefore be it resolved and enacted by the General Assembly of Georgia that the portion of State Route 5, McCaysville Bypass in Fannin County is dedicated as the Speaker, David E. Ralston Interstate Connector. Be it further resolved that the new bridge over the Toccoa River, awesome, in Fannin County is dedicated as the Speaker, David E. Ralston Memorial Bridge. Be further resolved that the portion of State Route 52 in Gilmer County from Aaron Road west to the Murray County line is dedicated as the Speaker David E. Ralston Memorial Highway. Be it further resolved that the Department of Transportation is authorized and directed to erect and maintain the signs dedicated to Speaker David E. Ralston interstate connectors, Speaker David E. Ralston Memorial Bridge, and Speaker David E. Ralston Highway. So that's the resolution this morning, and I'm going to ask Will and Mr. Harper if they want to say something. But I do want to say one more thing. And you don't really, I'm born and raised here, but you don't really realize all the things that Speaker Ralston done to you all over the state, but the 7th District has been truly blessed. An honor to have our Speaker for all those years. So I'm proud to be a small part of this dedication this morning. Thank y'all.
You know, I'm honored and also humbled to be here today. I'm a native of Dawsonville, Georgia, and I remember meeting Speaker Ralston actually when I was a community banker during the Great Recession. He and I shared a common, I'll say it in the way he said it, visceral hatred for the federal government and their overreach and what they were doing to small town rural Georgia, the bank closures that were happening, and just the property owners and business owners and just the folks that he loved and the folks that I love were just facing things that were out of our control. And so we built a friendship of a mutual frustration of how can we as Georgians do something to help bring back Georgia. And I'll say this, I remember my meeting with him. I think Spiro was there. Spiro's first time I met Spiro, I thought, man, this guy's got the coolest name. You know? And when you're born with just Will Wade, I mean, my parents couldn't even afford the 2 Bible. Like, I mean, it's you know, I came up pretty humble. But he took his coat off, and what was really interesting is underneath his coat, his shirt sleeves were already rolled up. And to me, that just is an example of what he was about. He was about rolling your sleeves up and getting to work. And that's how I've always been in my banking career and my walk in my church, trying to roll up the sleeves. And, you know, I'm kind of that guy that gets to be a gopher and just do whatever my father-in-law was one of the deacons. You do what your father-in-law says, right? And then he's a deacon, and then you have no choice. But I also then had an opportunity to meet him as a state legislator. I had a friend, so my wife's cousin is married to Clint Bearden. Many of you probably know Judge Bearden. Judge Bearden was just Clint to me, and I was his mentor when he was in high school, and I was a young banker, and then he got to go work for, you know, the famous Speaker Ralston, as Clint would say it. And so I'd get to hear stories about the law office and what was going on over in these parts. And so I knew about him, but I didn't really know him until I was elected. And on January 11th of 2021, I was sworn in. And he heard a rumor. We had some mutual friends, the Stiles family. Some of y'all may remember Brassy Stiles, well, Miss Betty Stiles and Steve and Ann. That's where my dad worked every summer, and I would work on their farm, probably losing more nails than I ever handed to my daddy, but I still learned the value of work. He knew Rastus and he knew them. And so he called me and said, Will, I heard about your dad. I didn't know he was struggling with Alzheimer's. And 60 days later, on March 11th, my dad went home to be with the Lord. And I was a brand new legislator. We're dealing with COVID. The first non-family member phone call I got was from Speaker Ralston. I learned everything I needed to know about Mr. Ralston. He said, son, I'm not speaking today. I'm your friend. And I'm here for you if you need. I didn't know it at the time that the day of the funeral was the only day I missed in the state legislature. Was the day I buried my father, which was on March 14th, that Monday, Speaker Ralston's birthday. And then he called me that evening. He said, I heard Russell Burke did a fine job recognizing your dad. I said, yes, sir, he did. I said, I heard it's your birthday today. He said, yeah, it is. Appreciate that. And for me, it just is one of those things that solidifies my memory of your dad, the love of your life, family members. This is something I think he would be really proud of, because he and I shared one common thing. He said, son, I know enough about your dad, and I know he wasn't a wealthy man, but he gave you something that's priceless, and that's your last name. And I know that he's lived his life trying to do something to make that name have meaning, not just for this community, but for our state. So I'm honored and humbled to be here today to recognize all the efforts that he did. He would always say, look, none of us are perfect, but we got to get up every single day and try to make Georgia a little bit better. And I believe he did that, and that was his passion for his family, for his community, and for this state. And I love him, and I know all of you did, and this is just a beautiful day. So thank you, family, for letting me be here. Thank y'all for this, and I look forward to riding up David, Ralston, Laurel Highway. Thank y'all very much. Stay tuned.
I'll be very, very brief, which is unusual for me.
I sit next to him. I can't wait.
I will tell you, as I sat back there, I sat in the same seat for 11 years. 9 of those, David Ralston was speaker. And I watched how he operated. And I will tell you that he is the most fair man in any position like that I have witnessed in Atlanta, Georgia. It didn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, white, black, didn't matter. He treated everyone fairly, gave everybody a shot, and was very good to everybody in that house. And I will tell you this, if you were from the mountains, you might have a little bit of edge with him over somebody that wasn't. He was very partial to how mountain people thought. He knew we were different. And I will ever consider him my friend. And what an honor it was to have known him. Thank you. Good job.
This is a sample of the sign you may have already seen this morning. These signs are already placed out on the roads. If you come around by the Aaron's Apple's house, come in this direction from Ellijay this morning, we saw this sign. It's a lot bigger, obviously. But the DOT's already erected these signs. They'll be put up at all 3 locations. The other 2 spots that was mentioned in the resolution will be up in Fannin County. It's a new 4-lane going through Hayesville, Blue Ridge, and the bridge that'll be going across the river as well. So David was very instrumental in the funding of that. He helped push that project for years. As we all know, growth continues to come to North Georgia. We're always constantly trying to improve our roads. And David was really the pushing force to get that funding for that new road up there. So it's very fitting that we name that road after him in Fannin County. And also very fitting that this section of Highway 52, is named in his honor as well, because of all the service to the communities and the years of service to the citizens of this area. So with that, we're going to close out our portion of the service and hand it over to Spiro Amber. Matt's next. The family, thank you. And then Spiro's going to talk a little bit about some people, but I want to just point out a fellow in the back of the room before I sit down. Trooper Vince Mooney probably spent more time with Speaker Ralston than anybody at the state of Georgia, other than when he got to go home on the weekends to see his family. Trooper Mooney was there for him. He protected him. He drove him everywhere he needed to be. He took care of him in the Capitol. He and the other troopers that were assigned to that detail really worked hard day in and day out, 24 hours a day if it took it. Anytime the speaker would go on a trip, one of the troopers would be there. But the person I saw the most at the Capitol was always Trooper Mooney. And I just want to thank you, Trooper, for being here today. I know what Speaker Ralston meant to you, and we appreciate your service to the citizens of Georgia as well. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Matthew Ralston, friend of all of ours, and I know he's a friend of yours, and a family member, and the son of David. So, Matthew, thank you for having us to be here.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, General Assembly members in the state of Georgia, for giving our family this honor. Elizabeth and I were going through boxes fairly recently and found a letter from 1965 that Speaker George T. Smith wrote a 5th grader from Oakland Elementary School, thanking him for his service as a page. 45 years later, I don't think that 5th grader realized he was going to be in the same office space as Speaker Smith, but it's funny how things happen. You know, Dad, when Dad went to Atlanta that day in '65, he saw good people doing hard work for Georgia, and that's what he wanted to do as Speaker when he got elected in 2010, was make sure that people in the House of Representatives could still do hard work, could still do things with an open mind and be fair and have civility to everybody. So thank you again for this honor. The family appreciates it, and with that, I'll turn it over to Spiro.
Well, this is awesome to be here. I'm honored to have the opportunity to be here and be with the Ralston family. And yeah, my name is Spiro, so if you're wondering what my dad's politics was, those of you who were alive in 1971 and know who the vice president was, you can figure it out. But he was also in local politics in Fannin County and was a Republican. And the Ralston family roots go way back here in North Georgia and Gilmer County. And no offense to folks who might be on the other side of the island here, they were Republican before Republican was cool. I know this is not a political meeting, but you know, a younger David Ralston was a state senator when I was coming out of college in the mid-90s. And I had the good fortune of meeting him at that particular time. And to say that he had an influence on my life is an understatement. But I appreciate the Ralston family, all of you. I know that I'm not blood kin, but I haven't had the opportunity just to tell you as a group how much I appreciate you. Dennis and Steve, I know the other brothers aren't here, all the family. We have other staff who were invited, and of course it's a busy time of year. All of them couldn't make it, and some of them are still working at the Capitol and in the Speaker's office. But I also want to recognize Lieutenant Mooney back there. He was with us in the trenches all the way from 2010 in the very beginning all the way to the end, and he's a good friend, and I appreciate him being here today. And I think it's fitting that we have roads and bridges named for David because he bridged both sides of the aisle. And that includes here in North Georgia, you know, and across the state, and everything that these gentlemen here said, and all of you I respect so much. I've had the opportunity to work with them throughout the years, and I always wish that people throughout the state, politics is obviously it's a blood sport for sure, and you don't always know who a person is. And I wish sometimes that, you know, when the politics get kind of ugly, and when you're in a leadership position and you take the arrows for other people, you know, I wish they could have known, you know, the David Ralston that we know, but that's just the way politics is sometimes. And you know, these folks know it. Steve, you know it. You're about to embark on a journey yourself, and you know, it's tough out there, but it's a great honor to see these things happen for him, and it's a season of celebration. I feel like we've kind of transitioned. You know, it's been a couple of years now since we lost David, but it's nice to see these types of things come to fruition. You know, the roads, there's going to be some other things throughout the summer. It's no secret the University of North Georgia campus in Blue Ridge will be, the expansion will be opening later on this summer, and there will be a ceremony related to that. And I know that he would, he never was a fan of having buildings named after him, but too bad, right? I think he would appreciate it, and it's a lasting legacy for him. So I don't see any other staff or former staff from our office here, but I do want to recognize, I'll recognize a couple of people. One is Rhonda Chatham back there. You all know Rhonda. She helped put this event together and does a great job around the Capitol herself. She's done quite a good job getting to know people around the state, and is well respected. And Joshua Waller from the Georgia Department of Transportation. Josh also was very instrumental in this and has worked at GDOT for how many years now, Josh? 10, 12? How many? 15? And was there when, 2015, when some very important transportation legislation got passed, and has worked very closely with the Speaker's office and with the House on these projects here in House District 7 in North Georgia, and in particular, the bypass that was mentioned earlier in Copper Hill, Kaysville, which is basically my hometown, and it's good to see that project coming along. So I don't see any other staff that are here, so I will turn it over to Mr. Jones. I'll turn it back over to you to close this out. I see a couple of church hymnals and a mole singing convention book back there. If you want to lead us in a song, so I can play. I'm just kidding, but if you...
That's probably a good idea. I tell you what blessing it is. What a blessing it is to be here, and I appreciate, I was telling them outside, and when I say this, Sheree, I don't mean this in an arrogant manner at all, but it was a blessing of the Lord that worked through David when I got to go down to the Capitol to be the chaplain of the day, and it was a great honor to me, and something I'll never forget, and I appreciated that so much. And then it's good to be saved by the grace of God, and to know that, you know, this one, I wasn't supposed to talk, I was supposed to just pray, but, you know, of all the things that David did and all of the accomplishments that we've heard today and all of the accomplishments that you might make, when we had to come back down from Blue Ridge that day at the funeral, the only thing that really mattered, really at that point, was that David Ralston, when I went down to Piedmont Hospital probably a week or so before he went to be with the Lord, you know, I know this ain't political, man. You know, I know it's not. Sometimes you hear people say things about people, and they don't even know, you know, and they'll say, sometimes it's ugly things, and I'm thinking, you know, to say that, it sounds to me like you're the one that needs to get some things right with the Lord. Because we've all got disagreements. Me and Brother Dennis was talking coming out here. Love covers a multitude of sin. And just because you disagree with somebody, don't mean you got to have hate in your heart. And but anyway, David was, and I was thinking when we was coming back from the funeral that day, I was thinking, you know what? All these people have come out because they were David's friends. Some may have come out for other reasons. But the greatest friend David Ralston ever had, he was seeing face to face at that moment. So I'm going to tell you, thank God for His grace and His mercy. And it's only through Him we can get there. Anyway, you know what I want to do? I'm glad you said that, Spirit. Now, these Ralstons, they like to sing. They like to sing. Steve and Dennis, why don't y'all come up here with me? I want y'all to go and let's leave the Lord, all right? Yeah. Because I didn't bring my glasses. I can't see. I'm going to tell you like you do at church. Everybody's looking at you. Might as well come on with us. You know what I'm going to say? Everybody knows this. Can we stand up and we've already prayed and we'll sing a song and then you'll be living.
I was just going to say, this is Brother Steve's way of seeing people make a quick exit.
You ever been down there to Macedonia? Our country church, now we understand nothing takes place in the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you ever go to our country church, now one thing we do is we like to sing.
Right.
So let's sing Amazing Grace. Everybody knows that. All right, you ready, Steve? How about leading us on? You can't use your song. All right, ready? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. told me that, you know, they want you to, Matthew, they said, you got 5 minutes. And so I mentioned that to David, and David said, yeah, we'd like to keep around 5 minutes. So I was trying to, you know, country Baptist preachers are, you know, 5 minutes pretty short. But, so I was out there walking around on the floor, and one of those members, one of the members said, so who's your representative? I said, Speaker Ralston. I said, yes. Well, first I said, they said, I can't give you about 5 minutes. And they said, who's your representative? I said, Speaker Ralston. He said, well, you can go as long as you want to. So after, I did go a little over 5 minutes. I looked at David and I said, that fella over there told me I could go as long as I want to. I want to say, amen to a life well lived. Amen.
What a tribute and what a man. What an amazing, amazing man, the mountain man, David Ralston. He loved these mountains and he loved sharing these mountains with everybody. Today, it's a beautiful day. Get out and ride the road and stop and see the signs that are representative of a man who truly made us more than we ever dreamed we could be. Welcome to the mountains.